understanding and of the romance novel, the introduction and history. The idea of the romance novel has been around for centuries, having started way back in the 18th century. Jane Austen, Samuel Richardson, and Anne Radcliffe gave the first stepping stones into the romance novel, which introduced its main character as being female and dealing with her romantic life. Most of these early novels followed the female main character as she fell in love, struggled with her love interest before finally getting her happy ending. This is one of the few genres of books back then that were written for women by women, making it one of the first acts of feminism that also pushed women to seek their own desires. The turn of the century led to the revival of this genre in the ways of Gone with the Wind and others. This gave readers a new, interesting topic to talk about sexual awareness and the idea of forbidden love that has continued today. In the 1950s, we see that the genre got an update in a major way. This was the erotic novel, starting making rounds in the modern home and entertained housewives in a life that was also often seen as boring. It was a way to express one's wants and desires while reading a steamy novel that was often kind of jokingly about the farmhand and exploring their sexual needs. Harlequin novels became extremely popular and is often seen as kind of your grandmother's and mother's romance novels. You tend to see this a lot in popular culture and the jokes and TV and stuff. I mean, Friends has a whole episode where Joey makes fun of Rachel for having, you know, a steamy book. In the modern day, the helpless female lead has shifted from being feisty, hard-headed, gay, and even now the male counterpart is the main character. There has been an uproar of romantic novels dealing with the different ideas such as paranormal slash supernatural love interest, dark romance, which is usually erotic in nature, and a future where the world is not like it is now, usually dystopian or, utopian. This is the type of novel that has gained a new acceptance in young readers and older alike. So on my page, you can see somewhere within this house, a lot of the Jane Austen, which we have seen, is Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice. Gone with the Wind was super big. When we take this deep dive into romantic novels, there are several different subgenres and a wide range of tropes, romantic dynamics, and endings. With the newly acceptance of these types of novels in TikTok, when we see like book talk, or even just in general in bookstores, we do still have that romantic novel um, shelf in Barnes and Noble or any other bookstore. There is typically a large selection. We are experiencing a new generation of women writers writing for women, which is the highest demographic of readers, and therefore buyers a safe space to read several fantasy storylines, plots without feeling like the male gazes on those pages. As somebody who's read so many of these books, I you can tell when a man has written it simply by how the woman is described. The main character is and how the male is described by the writer. I wish I had an example, but I don't. I have only spicy stuff, and I'm not going to bore you guys with my reading of that. Um, Romance novels have come from something your mother or your friends were highly embarrassed about having, to helping others dream about having the bad boy, the monster, the prince, or the childhood crush finally noticing their flaws and loving them anyway. The difference now is we have a culture that is becoming more accepting of the strange little obsession that affects many and attracts many to its pages. What I mean by that is I remember watching like cartoons on Nickelodeon and it kind of being a joke that one of the main characters' friend's mom had the romance novel and it was, oh, Fabio took me in his arms and wrapped me up and he ravished me. We're seeing a difference in that simply because there is a new acceptance, especially for the spicy novel. It's no longer just a protagonist walking around and everybody falls in love with her. It is a dynamic romance line with the guy who has a dark past dealing with the dark past who suddenly finds the main character to be the shining light, which is tend to be like my favorite. It is absolutely cheesy, and I know it, and I love it. The definition of a romance novel changes depending on the novel, but overall, according to Romance Writers of America, it has two basic elements that comprise every romance novel: a central love story, an emotionally and satisfying and optimistic ending. I don't feel like that is true anymore. A lot of my romance novels do have a depressing ending where the main love interest or her love interest dies. She can't be with him because of death, illness, whatever. In a broad sense, basically books slash novels that deal with romantic ideas and storylines. The Uprise of the Romance Novel, which we kind of covered. The difference of the different romantic tropes. Tropes are usually what we see, kind of the love dynamic between the two characters. Enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, second chance, intimate relationships, opposite attract, secret billionaire, age gap, holiday romances, which is usually what you see in like the Hallmark movies. I am a sucker for those. Childhood sweethearts are always really popular. Forced proximity, marriage romance, grumpy versus sunshine. If you are into fandoms at all, you have seen these tropes before. These are typically your tropes that enemies to lovers being one of my favorites, where they can't stand each other, but really it's because there's been miscommunication and they do really love each other. And it's absolutely cheesy and it is absolutely not everybody's cup of tea, but I feel like there's at least something for everyone. Soulmates being another really big one, forbidden love being one of the first tropes to really show its face in this type of stuff. The different subgenres. Number one being the contemporary novel, which is our most broad romance novel. This is the one while reading, you get your happy ending. It's usually the one that you see most often in Barnes and Noble and other bookstores. Um, contemporary run of Contemporary run-of-the-mill romance books usually have the basic storylines that lead to happy endings or a tragic one due to illness or death. Fault in Our Stars, The Love Hypothesis, and many others are by these same authors are great and popular examples of contemporary romance storylines. Fun fact for this genre, I have a couple throughout this. Love Hypothesis is actually based on Kylo Ren and Rey from Star Wars: The Last Jedi. While this book alone is wildly popular, I have not read it after learning this knowledge because I can't look past it. Not that I hate Star Wars or anything, but aren't they like cousins? At least that's what I thought, and it just kind of icks me out a little bit. So there's our popular examples. Hazelwood has become very popular recently with a lot of hers because it is a lot of kind of the cheesy storylines, and who doesn't love a cheesy storyline? The erotic romance. While erotic novels have always been had a strange place in our popular culture, there is a larger wave of acceptance of these type of romance books. While many adults have transferred from fan fiction to these novels, at least within what I know from this, to these novels, their love of them has always stayed. I personally got into these after growing up on fan fiction with kind of a spicier side and really kind of wanted to continue that into my adulthood and have found that I really do enjoy this, not just because of the nature, but I enjoy the story plots more. I like the drama. I like the no, we can't be together because my darkness is there. It's absolutely cheesy. One of the books that I have read, which are in our next popular examples, The Distance or Behind the Mask series by Luna Mason, um, absolutely has the most fanficky ending because of course she's pregnant and of course they're going to get married. How could they not? It's so cheesy and I love it so much. Our fun fact for this one is that 50 Shades of Grey was actually deemed too risque for fan fiction sites way back in the day, and it was Twilight fan fiction, if you can believe it. It was about Bella and Edward, And a lot of websites way back when she had first written it decided that no, you can't have this here because it was deemed too sexually explicit. So take that into consideration while reading it. Um, 50 Shades of Grey, Devoted, and anything with the famous Fabio are extremely popular examples. We've all kind of seen the Fabio um, book cover, and that's kind of what people associate with the erotic novel. The strong man with no shirt, the long hair flowing in the wind, ready to take you as you were ready. We have evolved from that, obviously. The historical romance. The historical romance is when you think of historical romance, a lot of us tend to think of Bridgerton, Pride and Prejudice. This is the type of romance novel to fall within this genre. So Pride and Prejudice, Bridgerton, Gone with the Wind, this is usually what falls into this subgenre. Popular examples, Marriage of Inconvenience, Bridgerton, which is now a series on Netflix. It's all very posh. It's, the royal man not being able to control himself around you because you are just so graceful and beautiful and you bring something out in him that he's never felt before. Again, it's kind of the joke of the romance novel genre that this is what we think of. Paranormal and supernatural romances are super fun in the fact that I find a lot of them very annoying. Supernatural slash paranormal romances is where we tend to find our alpha and omega romances. Dragon shifters, shapeshifters, ghosts, werewolves, and vampire romances get kind of thrown into this very broad genre. This is something that we see in Twilight and other books where, you know, the werewolf leader can't stop himself from you or the main character. I tend to stay away from this because I find the shapeshifter thing kind of really annoying because I can only read so many times that main characters inner beast can't fight other characters inner beast. It's really weird, but this does lead us to some really fun topics, such as if there is a cryptid, there is 100% a book about it. I have 3 on the Kraken alone that are so bad and I love them so much. Um, this is one of the most broad subgenres that can leak really through the rest of the genres that we have covered. We have seen erotic novels with, the wolf pack and Twilight leading into some historical romances with some of the other characters, not so much Bella and Edward, but the other characters kind of have met throughout the past. Um, Shapeshifters are always going to be popular because it's really kind of annoying to write, you know, a wolf constantly. But looking at this one, think about our childhood books and stuff that got turned into Disney movies. Beauty and the Beast. Oh my goodness, my brain just so stopped. I apologize, everybody. I'm fighting a little bit of a cold, so if you hear it, that's what's happening. Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White all have mystical elements to them. Obviously, Beauty and the Beast being one of the biggest examples, and is actually one of the ones translated most currently into adult novelization for romance. I have 3 books alone on that one, too, of different stories kind of dealing with that. So take that as you will. Romance suspense, which I personally kind of think is a very, very broad statement. Um, The Spy and I, it's romance with kind of a push twist. It's the ability to have a very dynamic storyline while romance is happening. I haven't really read any of these, and trying to find examples that I have like identified with was really hard. I have found that this subgenre alone branches off into so many different paths. I think of this as being kind of more of the mafia romance, stuff like that. The overlap is pretty general with all of these. We've kind of talked about it. Um, with it really being well, every subgenre is its own thing. Each subgenre can kind of get put into another subgenre. So you do have the historical erotic fiction, you have the historical suspense, you have your contemporary with the creatures, with supernatural creatures. It's a very broad definition, but there is an extreme overlap with all books. You're not really going to have a lot of them where you're going, well, I really want a romantic story with such cryptid and not be able to find it. The joke is that if there is a cryptid of it, if there is a cryptid, there is a book of it, kind of running by that Rule 34 definition. If it exists, there is a book about it. The numbers. Oh, I apologize, guys. Romantic novel readers really have a higher female rate, with an 82% of readers being women and only 18% being males. I don't know how that translates now with um, the knowledge of the LGBTQ demographic. Couldn't really find anything on this just being a very broad sense of what those numbers look like. This is a multi-million dollar selling industry with $1.44 billion generated in the sales from these books in May of 2023 alone. This has grown. It is becoming more popular for reading habits are coming from readers under the age of 35 years old. Like I said, we are seeing a new wave of acceptance of these books through kind of a younger demographic. I am 27. I am reading books now for what is seemed as an older generation. Um, a lot of these readers are Caucasian/white, making up about 73% of the readers. The average romantic readers are between the ages of 35 to 39, but like I said, we are seeing a younger demographic kind of taking that up. It just does not mean it's the majority. Um, Kind of going back to the book talk thing, I don't think I covered that, but book talk was kind of where I found my little niche and whatever. When you Google or when you search on TikTok for book talk, there are about 29.9 million posts alone with this tag on TikTok, along with the hashtag book talk, making it one of the most tagged things in on TikTok in one of these smaller communities. I won't say on TikTok as a whole because TikTok is made of lots of miniature communities and subcultures and stuff like that, but this is one that tends to take up my For You page often. Take that as you will. In conclusion, the modern day romance novel has been shown that there is a growth in many different communities and weirdly has given those in need of a romantic release a huge category to do so. We are seeing this a lot in, the sexual repression that we've experienced as a culture and being able to accept that. There is a bookstore in Washington that I went to visit called Powell's, and it is amazing. Google it, it's great. Um, but their romance section is literally like an entire wall, and this entire store is a entire city block of buildings put together to make this massive bookstore, and there's a huge wall dedicated to romance novels alone. So romance novels have shown that they are gaining popularity as well as becoming more popular in our popular culture. My citations. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. I apologize for the coughs and the sickness. It's been fun. It was super fun being with you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your school semester. Thank you to our professor for being so incredibly patient with everything and giving me the ability to really go on a nearly 20-minute rant about something I truly enjoy. So I hope you guys